On Friday the 27th of June, the greats of the Richmond Football Club gathered at Crown to celebrate. It would begin a weekend of tributes to the finest players and administrators to have been involved with the Tigers since 1908.
Come sarà giunto che dirà, chiamerà butterfly dalla lontana, io senza dar risposta me ne starò nascosta un po' per cilia e un po'
Some 1,000 past players and supporters would greet 10 Tiger Treasures, selected from the 100 nominees in 10 categories, encapsulating the very spirit of Tigerland.
Charlie Callender's career as the club's property steward and later as property consultant spanned an amazing 63 years.
car and the Tigers. My elder brother took me down here, and I watched the immortal Jack Dyer play his last game, sitting up on the fence, and watched Roy Wright. I watched my idol Bill Morris and his Rover partner Billy Wilson. And lo and behold, I really wasn't even a football player at school. I played tennis most of the time, I was asked to come down and train with Richmond with a view to just doing some pre-season with them, and the rest is history. I was named in the first game and spent 11 years of my time as a player and as a captain. And then came back later. I was invited to come back onto the committee when things were not going too well with the club, and then 5 seconds later I was elected president, or I was asked to take over as president, and we came together and put together the SOS campaign and saved the club officially. Not just me, of course, a cast of thousands, including all of our supporters. It's a second life, I guess, for me in many ways, and I love the place passionately, and I just want us to have some success again. I just would love to be able to get the club, or help get the club back to that position where people can enjoy the thrill and enormous pleasure that goes hand in hand when you've got a successful side.
Look at our cheer squad and think of Alice Wills. Her contribution to Tigerland, entirely voluntary for nearly 50 years, is unmatched. In the early 1960s, following discussions with club secretary Graham Richmond, she was given the responsibility for the formation and running of the club's cheer squad. In 1988, she became the first, and still to this day, sole female recipient of Richmond Football Club life membership. By his own admission, Ian Wilson didn't give a stuff what anyone outside of the club thought. He did everything within his power to make Richmond successful. Octa started on the Tigers committee, had a stint as the reserve grade manager, before ending the 1960s as the club's vice president. At the end of 1973, he took over Richmond's presidency, and he oversaw the 74 and 1980 premierships. Wilson was renowned as a trailblazer, visionary and innovator. Graham Richmond was, as Tommy Hayfair referred to him, Richmond by name, Richmond by nature. Known simply by his initials, GR, he filled a variety of important roles at Tigerland over more than 30 years of service. He was a ruthless administrator who knew the game back to front and never wasted an opportunity that could benefit his beloved Tigers.
No, we didn't mind being us against the world, because I'll tell you, interestingly enough, Graham and I were leaving Collingwood one day, and we've done that little dirty lane there, and all of a sudden somebody threw half a meat pie. I was driving in my car, and somebody threw a beer can or a Coke can, and Graham said, "Jesus," he said, "we've bloody made it, we've made it." And I said, "What are you talking about with people?" He said, "They hate us."
His strength lay in his relentless persuasiveness. He was a masterly recruiter and negotiator. And as a speaker, arguably, there have been none finer in league football history.
The winner is the power broker from the 60s and 70s, Graham Richmond. And I'll ask his wife, Jan, if she would join Stephen and David on centre stage for the official presentation.
So it's a very proud moment for the family?
Absolutely. My 3 children are here, and we're very honoured and pleased to receive this on Graham's behalf. And we're sorry he's not here. He would love to be here with us all.
Bill Burns was a tough halfback who was carried from the field following a collision during a match in May of 1909. The Tigers had to continue with just 17 players as there was no interchange back then. Defying doctors' orders to go to hospital, Burns returned in the last quarter with the match hanging in the balance. He took a magnificent mark and kicked the winning goal. George Smeaton went into a semi-final clash during the 1940s with his right toe so badly broken it had turned black. The club doctor had warned Smeaton against playing, but he ignored the medical advice. As the team's fullback, Smeaton continued to kick in after the opposition had scored a behind right throughout the match. Just before three-quarter time in the 1969 grand final against Carlton, Richmond spearhead Eric Moore bravely stood his ground in the goal square, waiting to mark a floating pass, as tough Blues defenders Vin Waite and Kevin Hall thundered in. Moore took the mark, but was flattened heavily. He hauled himself up and then steered the ball through for an inspirational goal.
Put it through.
Francis Burke fractured his leg in the first quarter of a vital game against Hawthorn at Glenferrie Oval in 1971. After it became obvious he couldn't play on, he walked unaided to the rooms. With Richmond trailing Collingwood by 6 goals at half-time in the 1973 preliminary final, the Tigers were forced to bring on their injured skipper Royce Hart, but sat out the first half with an injured knee. Hart had an immediate impact, booting 2 fine goals and providing the team with the necessary impetus to go on and clinch a memorable comeback win. Laurie Fowler, a 179cm back pocket, set the tone for Richmond's 1973 grand final triumph over Carlton when he decked the Blues' Colossus John Nichols early in the first quarter with a spectacular flying bump. Although Nichols got up and kicked a goal from the resultant free kick, he was dazed for the rest of the match and had little influence as the Tigers ran away. During the second quarter of a mid-season match against Footscray in 1978, Robert Lamb courageously backed into the path of Bulldog backman Albie Smets, marking the ball. Eventually, he was led off the field, and subsequent x-rays revealed he had a broken jaw. A second nomination for Francis Burke. Burke collided with teammate Stephen Mount in a tense round 21 1980 clash with North Melbourne at Arden Street and had trouble seeing because of the blood streaming down his face. He was subsequently moved from fullback to the opposite end of the ground, where he immediately made his presence felt, taking a diving chest mark and slotting through a crucial goal. The Richmond captain's reputation for bravery was further enhanced this particular day at the MCG against Sydney. Tony Free's jaw was broken in an off-the-ball incident with Dermot Brereton after he'd put his body on the line to shepherd teammate Brendan Gale, prompting Tiger coach John Northey to urge his players to repay their skipper for his inspirational leadership. Just 8 days after suffering a broken nose, fractured eye socket, and having 13 stitches inserted above his eye, courtesy of an accidental kick in the head from a teammate, Matthew Richardson lined up against Essendon in the 2007 Dreamtime game. Far from being a token on-field presence, Richo booted 4 goals in an outstanding, rousing effort.
For the winner, we go back to Arden Street in 1980 against the Kangaroos, Francis Burke.
Little did you think when you were wiping the sauce from your face that day at Arden Street 28 years ago that it had come back and haunt you in such a rich fashion.
If you're referring to the Toyota magic moment, Stephen, that's the Toyota magic moment. I'd have to say you're right, I didn't ever dream. Look, I don't even know how, in all fairness to all the other brave acts that have happened over the years, how they picked one. Because most of the brave acts of the century occurred when no one or very few people knew about them. So it's very nice to be acknowledged for getting a blood eye, and thank you very much to Greg Strawn.
Richmond had been pipped by St Kilda for the final spot in the breakaway VFL competition when that was formed in 1896. But in late 1907, it was invited to join, along with the University Club. Richmond made its VFL debut in 1908 in yellow and black vertical stripes. But in 1914, the iconic sash appeared on the front and back of the Guernsey. It ran from right to left over the shoulder initially, but the alignment was changed from left to right in 1919. The Tigers finished the 1920 home and away season on top, for the first time in its VFL history. It was mission accomplished when Richmond prevailed by 17 points in the grand final to bring the first VFL flag home to Punt Road. The famous rallying cry of "Eat 'em alive" has electrified Richmond supporters for the best part of a century. It can be heard at the opening bounce, when a match is in the balance, or when the Tigers are crushing an opponent. At just 17 years of age, the great Jack Dyer made a quiet entry into the big time with Richmond on May 2nd, 1931. Dyer was selected as 19th man for his senior debut with the Tigers in the round 2 clash with North Melbourne at Punt Road. He spent the whole game on the pine, as Richmond rewrote the record books with a 28-goal win. The Tigers didn't have much to cheer about in 1962, with Des Rowe's team struggling down the bottom of the ladder. One day, committee man Alf Barnett ushered cabaret singer Jack Malcolmson into the rooms. Barnett told the players Malcolmson had written a song for the club and wanted to try it out. The players sat in silence as Malcolmson sang "We're from Tigerland" unaccompanied. When he sang the final lines, "We're from Tigerland, yellow and black, we're from Tigerland," the players leapt out of their chairs and yelled, "Yeah!" They were hooked. Richmond relished its move across the park to the MCG. By 1964, Punt Road Oval had become unsuitable for league football due to its lack of size. Len Smith, who had taken over as Richmond's coach, was keen to mould a team that would be successful in finals on the spacious MCG. The Tigers, under President Ray Dunn, came up with the obvious solution: share the MCG with Melbourne for home games. Despite initial opposition from other clubs, Richmond eventually got the green light from league directors and moved its home games to the G in 1965. At the end of the 1965 season, Richmond was searching for a new coach after Len Smith's health problems had forced him to relinquish the role. Dynamic club secretary Graham Richmond had his eye on former Tiger player Tommy Hafey, who had just captain-coached country club Shepparton to its third successive premiership. Hafey needed little persuasion to take the job. He wasted no time in imposing his methods on the Tigers.
When Tommy came, he brought something very, very different to the club, intense discipline and intense driving force to win. And Tommy was admired by everybody because everything we did, he did. And he was, obviously, as we all know, a fitness fanatic. And he brought a very simple but very effective game plan that suited the players we'd recruited, the long kicking, and then everyone at the ball game. And some of the things that Tommy innovated, I think, would still be pertinent in today's football.
My main concern was that some of the players that I was coaching had been players when I'd been playing, and I was a little bit worried about how they would handle that, obviously because they were bigger names than what I was as a player, but I did have 6 years in the country coaching, so I suppose I did serve an apprenticeship.
Richmond narrowly missed the finals in 1966, but broke a 24-year premiership drought the following season, and under Hafey became the competition's pacesetter over the next decade. Richmond had finished the 1967 home and away series on top of the ladder, qualifying for the finals for the first time since 1947. The critics, however, remained unconvinced of its premiership chances because of the team's lack of finals experience. A convincing 40-point second semi-victory over Carlton removed some of the doubts, but many commentators still fancied Geelong in the grand final against the Tigers. But nothing was going to stand in the way of Richmond's date with destiny. On September 23, 1967, a 24-year premiership drought was washed away in a glorious yellow and black deluge. On August 15, 1990, Richmond announced that it would need to raise $1 million by October 31st that year, or it would cease to exist because of crippling debt. The Save Our Skins campaign was immediately established to keep the Tigers alive.
Fearing their club could go the same way as Footscray, thousands of Richmond supporters rallied to the cause at the MCG. Badges, raffle tickets and even some of the hallowed Punt Road turf were up for sale to try to reduce the club's $1.5 million debt. Tiger supporters were treated to a parade of champions, both young and old, bringing back memories of how things were and the promise of the coming season. Players and club officials addressed the crowd, but it was club president Neville Crowe who summed up everyone's feelings.
Because we are Tigers and we are yellow and black, and this is our home, the MCG and Punt Road, and we're not going to bloody well go anywhere.
With club president Neville Crowe as the figurehead, the SOS campaign captured the imagination of the football world and, more importantly, did what it set out to achieve.
The winner of the Auslab defining moment of the century, and what a defining moment it was for this historic club, and that was Save Our Skins. And the face of that mighty campaign was Neville Crowe.
I think the fact that thousands of people, and there'll be many, many, many of them in this room today and tonight, that stepped up to the plate, and with thousands of people, it's the best team effort that the Richmond Football Club's ever put in.
You realise how deep the support is?
Oh, absolutely. I think, we've got wonderful supporters. They're, some of them are half crazy, but so's the rest of them, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
With Richmond fans on the edge of their seats during the thrilling last quarter of the 1967 Grand Final, Tiger ruckman John Ronaldson launched a monster drop kick on a tight angle from the members' side of the MCG at the scoreboard end. The ball sailed through for an unbelievably inspirational goal from about 65 metres out. After Billy Barrett took a crucial mark in the final quarter of the 1969 Grand Final against Carlton, he briefly held the ball aloft in jubilation. Then came the difficult part, kicking accurately for goal from an extreme acute angle, about 60 metres out, on the members' side. Barrett was up for the challenge, sending a towering torpedo punt right through the middle. Star spearhead Michael Roach needed 9 goals going into the round 20 1980 match against Melbourne to become just the second Tiger to reach the 100-goal milestone in a season. Early in the last quarter, Roachy had 8 goals to his credit when he copped a high tackle from Demon Jim Dernan. From more than 60 metres out, his booming drop punt split the sticks.
I did get a free kick. I got a head-high tackle, and I'd had a couple of shots early on in the quarter and missed them, and it was a fair way out, and I just had a bit of adrenaline and kicked the goal, so I was very pleased.
At the 26-minute mark of the 1980 Grand Final, with Richmond set to complete a massive victory over Collingwood, the brilliant Kevin Bartlett wrong-footed his opponent, Stan Magro, took a bounce, and then threaded the ball through from an almost impossible angle to notch his 7th goal for the day and equal the Grand Final goal-kicking record. This was Jimmy Jess at his best. When Richmond played host to Footscray, the Tigers had fought back from a 5-goal deficit. The Ghost had the chance to increase the lead with this unlikely shot from inside the square.
It was a pretty wet day. Hadn't had many kicks, so you got to make the most of it when you get one. And I remember Malthouse was coaching Footscray, so wouldn't mind showing off in front of him. So I got onto it, and yeah, she went through the sticks, so it was good.
The little Tiger excitement machine decided to take off for a bit of a trot during the team's final home-and-away match of the 1990 season against Sydney at the SCG. After gathering the ball deep in defence, Mitch took 1 bounce, then another, and then 5 more, before calmly drilling home an incredibly inspirational goal.
I guess it was a long time ago. All I remember was I'm not too certain whether I got a crumb or a handball, but had a bounce, and it kind of opened up, and then it opened up, and then I guess there was someone there and got around him, and I think then there was someone else around him and kept going and had a shot and surprisingly went through. I'm not too good on the run.
Buddy Knights had played a lone hand in Richmond's cutthroat semi-final clash with Essendon in 1995, kicking 3 of the team's 4 goals to half-time. The second of those goals was simply breathtaking. Knights gathered possession in the midfield, took 5 bounces, seemingly in gliding motion, steadied from 40 metres out and belted it through. In this early season match against St Kilda at Telstra Dome in 2003, Joel Bowden sent the yellow and black faithful into raptures with a truly memorable goal. The talented left footer gained possession about 50 metres out from goal, then proceeded to balk and sidestep 3 Saints opponents before steadying and drilling a superb team-lifting 6-pointer. Trailing Collingwood by 10 points at three-quarter time in this round 8 2005 clash, it was going to take something special to spark a lethargic Tiger team to victory. Enter Nathan Brown. He kicked 5 goals in the final term, one of them an amazing soccer-style effort, where he kept kicking the ball off the ground before slamming it through for a goal as he neared the line. In this mid-07 encounter with Fremantle at Subiaco, reliable Richmond defender Chris Newman found himself near the middle of the ground after receiving a free kick, followed by a 50-metre penalty. Newman's intention was to send the ball into the teeth of goal, but he went better than that. His monster 75-metre torpedo punt registering full points.
For the winner, we go back even further to 1990, to the SCG and that brilliant run of Michael Mitchell.
I actually got Mark of the Year and Goal of the Year that year, and I was fortunate enough to win $5,000 fuel card from BP. Now, I don't know, I'm probably putting myself in here a bit, but I think I spent a lot more than $5,000 on that fuel card. I used it diligently for 12 months, and it was interesting to note next year that when Darryl White, a countryman from Carnarvon there, he won it, that they said, here's the award, $5,000 cash.
It was the biggest news story of 1963. In the second last round of the season, tough Richmond back pocket Roger Dean was felled following a confrontation with Melbourne captain Ron Barassi. The Demon champion subsequently was reported and suspended for 4 weeks for striking, putting him out for the entire final series. Barassi was adamant he hadn't touched Dean.
He definitely hit me, and that's it. I did my best to get him out. I went to dinner with him, and we worked out what we were going to do. And I think he's convinced himself over this period of time that he didn't do it.
One of league football's greatest acting performances led to one of its greatest tragedies, when Richmond stalwart Neville Crowe was reported and suspended for 4 weeks for striking Carlton ruckman John Nichols in the 1967 second semi-final. Crowe missed the Tigers' drought-breaking premiership 2 weeks later and subsequently retired. Today's trial by video would have cleared him in an instant, as his open-hand swipe at Nichols plainly missed.
Nick tied me up in a tackle to prevent me from playing on or handballing or what have you, and what's unseen, unless you really play that clip slowly, is that I respond to an action of Nick's, whereas he's ripped one into my comic cuts, and I've thrown an open hand at him. Of course, he's collapsed like a burst balloon, and like you couldn't knock him over with a Sherman tank until Ollie Fowler came along, mind you. But I was just amazed that he fell down. But I understand the professionalism of that. But as to haunting me, no. It's you get plenty of kicks in the backside in life, and you just move on from there. But it comes up consistently, but I can have a giggle about it now.
We're sitting in the front row, Kevin Bartlett and I, at the annual meeting, and the abuse and the packed Richmond Town Hall was just so bordering on violent about Billy getting cleared, and they're starting to throw things from the crowd. And Kevin Bartlett leant over to me and said, "Hey, she's, I think we're sitting in the wrong spot here, mate. I think we made a bad decision sitting in the front row."
The Burleigh Tiger embarked on his own private war with the Blues backman in the 73 grand final. Balm playing at full forward, KO champion fullback Jeff Southby. Barmy then confronted Blues hardmen Vin Waite and Kevin Hall, as the Tigers extracted full retribution for their shock grand final loss to Carlton the previous year. On May 18, 1974, all hell broke loose at half-time in Richmond's clash with Essendon at Windy Hill as the players were leaving the field. A massive brawl erupted, involving players and officials of both clubs. Following a league investigation, several players and officials received suspensions, the heaviest being for Graham Richmond, who was rubbed out until December 31st, and also fined $2,000.
Brown holding its hands up to the crowd. If that's a gesture of victory, I don't know whether it's good or bad.
In 1966 was a football carnival in Hobart. And Graham came back, and I had a business in Perth, a small business over there, and Graham said, "When are you going to Perth?" And I said, "I'm going the week after." And he said, "Hey, we've got to sign this fella up." He said, I can't remember who the Victorian player was, but he was half-back flanker, and let's say it was Kevin Murray, but I'm making that up, by the way. He said he threw the best right cross I've ever seen thrown, and I said, "Get this bloke." And I went across there, and I went to this accountant's office in Mounts Bay Road, and this fresh-faced 17-year-old kid, and signed Mal Brown in 1966. And of course, he didn't come here 8 years later in 74, and only played 14 games. Yeah, character, Mal.
Richmond, in relentless pursuit of a third consecutive premiership in 1975, set its sights on South Melbourne's versatile star John Patura. Initially, South refused to budge. The Tigers copped a fine from the VFL for trying to poach Patura. South relented and traded Patura in exchange for popular Tiger premiership ruckman Brian the Whale Roberts, full forward Graham Teasdale and defender Francis Jackson. There was a sensation at the end of the quarter-time break in Richmond's qualifying final against Carlton at Waverley in 1980, when Tiger coach Tony Jewell and his Blues counterpart Percy Jones clashed. Jones rushed at Jewell and Richmond psychologist Rudy Webster, who'd previously worked at Carlton.
Well, it sort of started just a bit before that. We got out in the ground. I think Graham Landy had knocked out Ken Sheldon, and we were walking down the race, and Percy Jones saw Rudy Webster, and I don't know if he blamed Rudy or not, but he started yelling abuse at Rudy, which upset Rudy. And when I was trying to address the players at quarter time, Rudy kept interrupting me, saying that Percy had called him all sorts of names that he shouldn't have. which I was trying to ignore at the time anyway. And when we broke up from quarter time, I saw Percy about 70 metres away yelling obscenities at Rudy again. And Rudy, again, was visibly upset, so I thought I'd take things in my own hand and started rushing towards Percy to object to his language to Rudy. And fortunately, just as I got there, my runner at the time, Peter Grant, yelled out, "Don't do it, Tony." So we finished up with only a bit of a push and a shove.
At the end of 1982, there was an exodus of key players from Punt Road, with Collingwood being the main recipient, snaring star pair David Cloke and Jeff Rains. So Richmond raided the Magpies' nest, recruiting the likes of Philip Walsh, John Anea, Craig Stewart and Neil Peart, while Tigers spearhead Brian Taylor ended up at Victoria Park.
Oh, obviously I went over from Richmond to Collingwood. I think Graham took exception to it and he went and tried to recruit Collingwood players, and it just was a bit of warfare. But yeah, it was pretty unpleasant at the time, but unfortunate for the club's history. It's probably not great to be mentioned in that vein, but yeah, it happened.
In late 1986, the Tigers, with the strong backing of President-elect Alan Bond, announced they wanted to play their 11 away games in Brisbane from the 1987 season onwards, with 11 home games at the MCG.
Bond will underwrite recruiting and marketing by $1.5 million next year, and plans to lift the club's capital by $12 million with a listing on the stock exchange. In Brisbane, the Tigers would play their matches at the QE2 Stadium, while in Melbourne, its Punt Road facilities and social club would undergo a major redevelopment. Predictably, the proposal has received a hostile reception from the QAFL, with its chief Ken Murphy describing the Richmond board as carpetbaggers. But Alan Bond tonight urged everyone to be realistic.
Richmond has been a great club. It will be a great club again. We're going to recruit players for it, and I think that we will, if we can show some leadership, which is what we're trying to do right now, our supporters will see a future, our players will see a future, and we will get more supporters, not less supporters.
This decision immediately split the club, with some favouring the move while others vehemently opposed it. But after opposition to the move intensified, Richmond abandoned the Brisbane plan. At the end of the 1993 season, Richmond sent shockwaves throughout the football world when it decided to put captain and five-time winner of the club's leading goal kicker award, Jeff Hogg, up for trade. Hogg eventually was cleared to Fitzroy in exchange for three players, Paul Broderick, Michael Gale and Matthew Dundas.
But the winner of the Coca-Cola Controversy of the Century, for that, we have to go out to Windy Hill for one of the mightiest brawls you'll ever see in the game. And to accept that award, he was actually president of the club at the time. What about a warm round of applause for Ian Wilson?
We were called into VFL House by Sir Maurice Nathan and Eric McCutcheon for not having paid the bill, and Graham was frequently photographed with me at the football, and Sir Maurice brought these newspaper cuttings out and said that, under Rule 645, conduct unbecoming to the league, we could rub you both out. And I wish I'd have said this, but Graham said it. He said, geez, he said, that'd be a bloody great idea. He said, they'd put up statues of the boss and I up there. He said, we won last year's Premiership, we're going to win this year's Premiership. He said, we're like one of those martyrs, we'd be like Joan of Arc. So, this slowed them down a little bit.
And you finally, though, you got out of it, you talked them out of it, and you paid a couple of bob for legal fees.
$200, and when we did pay the $200, I went back and Graham said, you weak prick.
Captain coach Dan Minogue, fullback Vic Thorpe, centre halfback Max Hislop, centreman Checker Hughes, half forward Donald Dong, full forward George Bayliss, ruckman Hugh James and Barney Herbert, and rover Clary Hall were major players in Richmond's first VFL Premiership year in 1920. Richmond went back-to-back under Minogue in 1921. The Tigers finished in second place after the home and away rounds, destroyed Geelong in the semi-final, beat Carlton in the preliminary, and then triumphed over the Blues again in the grand final. Dual Premiership player Checker Hughes was coach in 32 when Richmond broke a frustrating run of grand final losses to take home its third VFL flag. The Tigers, who'd been in front all match, lost the lead late in the final term, but steadied through Doug Strang, who kicked one of his 4 goals to go on and win by 9 points. Powerful ruckman Percy Bentley took over as Richmond's captain-coach in 1934, and he provided exemplary leadership. The Tigers also received great drive from the likes of Titus, Martin, Geddes, Baggett, McCormack, Bolger, Sheehan, the Strang brothers, and a young Jack Dyer. Richmond steamrolled Geelong by 84 points in the second semi, then cruised home by 39 points over South Melbourne in the grand final. Jack Dyer was the Tigers' captain-coach in 1943, and they finished on top after the home and away series, only to lose to Essendon in the second semi. Richmond rebounded to beat Fitzroy in the preliminary and earn another crack at the Dons in the grand final. With teenager Max Hoppy curbing champion Essendon rover Dick Reynolds and Dick Harris putting 7 goals, the Tigers won by 5 points. Richmond, under coach Tommy Hafey, finished the 1967 home and away season on top. The Tigers disposed of Carlton by 40 points in the second semi, then faced up to a star-studded Geelong combination in the grand final.
Now Hart is 15 yards out, directly in front. It's got to be a score of some sort. Up comes Hart, puts his boot into it. He's got it right through the centre. There's Richmond's first.
Well, he wasn't beaten by too much for pace. Woods, the big cat, showed a fair bit too. There's a throw in. Mitchell and Patterson. Patterson hooks it back here. The players go in. Nobody able to break. Oh, there's a hand pass from Paul Richardson to Bartlett. Kick now out to the flank position on the other side. Farmer overruns it. Clay does too. Picked up by Barry Richardson. Richardson now to the edge of the goal square. Knock away here. There's a chance for Brown. He snaps. It's all right. Barrett now takes his kick. Goes down forward. Ganane comes out. He flies. Tries to find a man across. It goes to Ronaldson. Ronaldson snaps. Put it through. It's on the half-forward flank for Richmond on the member stand side. Barry Richardson takes it. He shoots a long one forward. Here's a battle royal. Ganane and West from behind. Ganane! You couldn't see him missing this. Oh, and through it goes.
Look at this one. A neat one in towards the centre wing. Farman runs through. He's tackled, slung, but he gets the kick. It's Barrett now a chance. Yes, he'll mark. He'll put a long one now in towards goal. Patterson screaming for it at full forward.
Barrett's keeping them in the game.
And his long kick goes in, but it's a chance loose line. Comes up. Good concentration. A drop punt. He's getting the distance. Right through.
Dean now will go in towards centre half forward. There it goes. It's swinging around. Who's there? For Richmond, Bill Brown.
And marked it. And a good mark. He was the only little bloke to touch it, the smallest in the pack.
Ronaldson, number 2, goes in there with Andrews, number 6 at Geelong, to the ground. It comes taken by Bartlett. He snaps. He comes on to congratulate him.
The Tigers staged a whirlwind finish to the 1969 home and away season to clinch a finals berth. They then annihilated Geelong by 118 points in the first semi and put Collingwood out of business in the preliminary to set up a showdown with Carlton in the big one. A record grand final crowd of 119,165 saw Richmond triumph by 25 points, with young ruckman Michael Green dominant.
Takes place, up goes Nichols, it goes to Northey, his kick is smothered, Barrett comes through, Barrett fires!
And Richmond are getting the advantage of it, mainly because Carlton is struggling. They're struggling overall.
There's his kick, it's a beautiful torpedo, right up into the teeth of goal. Ronaldson comes out unattended and takes the easiest of marks on his chest. Just blowing from one side to the other. He comes in, he elects for the punt kick. Oh, it's beautiful kick. He's made no mistake about it. Right through the middle. Clay on his own.
Dick Clay is on the half-forward flank. You heard Teddy Whitten sing out. He saw the move coming, and Clay has marked on the half-forward flank on the member stand side. The lead from Moore. The ball goes high. The players move into it. Ronaldson's there. The ball comes to the ground. Taken by Gill. He loses it, however. Picked up here. Hand passed across towards Roger Dean. But Northey comes in. Northey snaps. It's through. Gallagher to take it. He's in the back pocket on the member stand side. Takes his kick. Plenty of Richmond fellows there. Jesselenko, oh, he's up there. They're taken by Bartlett. Bartlett blazes away in the goal score. Look at that. Bond. Oh, in the goal square. Now, I don't believe umpires should touch players.
Bond, right through the middle. And the Tigers score.
players looking pretty weary as Richmond come home like trains. There's a kick down forward. Silvani's still trying. Hart went up there. Bartlett!
He's delirious, Bartlett. Look.
Pennell now out to the flank on the outer side. The players set themselves. Nobody able to mark. Francis Burke was in that lot. Silvani's got it. Silvani struggles it forward. Taken by Crane. Crane swings around. Gets his kick to the half-forward flank on the outer side. Jackson's in front, but hurls it again. Richardson, the mark, and Richmond are premiers 1969. Richmond premiers 1969. And the final scoreboard reads Carlton 8, 12, 60. Richmond 12, 13, 85. And there's the presentation of the cup by His Excellency to Roger Dean.
Revenge was uppermost on Richmond's mind as it entered the 73 final series. The Tigers, stunned by Carlton in the previous year's grand final, were determined to make amends. After a loss to Carlton in the qualifying final, Richmond recovered to beat St Kilda and Collingwood and earn another crack at the Blues. In a torrid encounter, it was the ferocious Tigers by 30 points.
He's put it through. No mark. A chance here for Richmond to get out of trouble once again as the ball goes to the wing position now on the member stand side. Players overrunning it. It's Crosswell with it. Crosswell, oh, he's nabbed. No, it's called play on. Crane gets a ball across here, and there's a blue on down there. Look at this. There's another one. Oh, this is the first quarter of a grand final.
I think Walls is down, Mike. Oh, it's Jezelenko.
Oh, this is a tough one. The ball to be bouncing. Look at the players around that. Oh, goodness me. Anyhow, there's the kick now, coming out towards the half-back flank on the member stand side. A chance here for Sproul once again, who's playing well. Sproul, a hand pass across to Kevin Sheedy. Sheedy steadies. There's his third. Dixon has time to steady. His kick going to the half-forward flank on that outer side. Jezelenko's there, but Stewart. Oh, fantastic. It's yours, all right.
Jones and Roberts of Richmond this time to compete for the knock. Jones in front, gets the ball down, but it's taken now by Stephen Ray. Ray's kick down forward. Green coming across, it's punched away, but it's been paid by umpire Robinson. The kick from Green. Full points from the bounce. Jones was up high, forcing it forward. Sproul comes through. So too does Dixon, but he couldn't take possession of the ball. Woods there. Francis Burke intercepts. He runs into the centre of the ground. A long kick from Burke up towards half forward. Coming across, it goes straight past the pack. Barn grabs the ball. A head pass on to Carter. And Carter puts it right through. Full points indicated by the goal umpire. Green coming back to take the knock. Jones is there. They jostle for positions. Jones gets the ball down. Croswell tries to burst through the pack. Can't do so. Jones' kick is smothered by Hart. And Hart will get the free kick. Hart receiving a push in the back then. Royce Hart. The kick from Hart. Full points, the real captain's goal. Ray with the kick. Long kick by Ray down towards the forward pocket. Barn was up, couldn't take the mark. It comes through towards Sheedy. Southbeck comes through, gets a punch forward. Almost Barn coming in. Getting into the goal square, and Bartlett's there. Kick off the ground by Bartlett. He'll get a free kick, Bartlett. Bartlett will have the free kick right in the goal square.
He's 7 points in just a few seconds. There it is, couldn't possibly miss that. Back in the centre, Ian Robinson bounces the ball. Players move in and up they go. Green is there, gets a tap away. Sproul runs into Crosswell. It's a chance for Sheedy to drive the Tigers forward. A nice hand pass over here towards Walsh. The Tigers playing good football now as the ball goes down towards Barham and Southby, but Hart cutting across, getting away from Dool, takes the mark. He's almost against the boundary line, some 55 metres out, and what's he done? What did I tell you? He's put it right through. Walsh gets an awkward bounce of the ball, and through comes Burke. Burke of Richmond, a long one. Down forward once again. Almost a mark to Baum. Baum scores it. He's put it through. Richmond keeping the pressure up. They know that once they relax pressure, Carlton will whip back with a couple of quick ones. Michael Green, nice kick. Oh, it's a beautiful kick, not a nice one. Here's a go for Roberts. He's only about 20 metres out. A straight kick will do, and it was. To attack now as Sproul puts his boot into it. It goes down into the pocket. Up they go, no mark to Baum. Stewart pushes the ball down. Baum gets it over to Stephen Ray. Ray to Stewart, and Stewart puts it through. McGee's kick, oh, it's a nice one to the half-forward flank on the member stand side, and the big whale goes up, he marks, gets it over to Bartlett. They're keeping the pressure right on the Tigers. Down forward, the pack flies, no mark, taken by Stewart. Stewart swings it out, puts it through, that's his third.
A number of Richmond players could have had the opportunity. Sheedy, a long kick from Sheedy, driving the ball right back up again, and Baum there again. Neil Baum. Kick from Baum. That's his second.
Fowler very coolly kicks that ball to the wing position. Sheedy is waiting there. He's met by Chandler. Sheedy recovers well. Kicks to the half-forward flank on the member stand side. Mike Green comes out there. Traps the ball in soccer fashion. A hand pass by Green. Little come off. Half pushing the ball in front of him. The siren goes. Siren goes. Richmond are premiers for 1973. Richmond are premiers, and what a beauty.
The Tigers won 17 of their 22 home and away games in 74 to finish on top and rolled into a third straight grand final, beating North Melbourne by 21 points in the second semi. 2 weeks later, Richmond bent North again in the grand final. It was tight early, but Richmond seized control with a 7-goal second quarter and ran away to a 41-point victory.
Oh, he'll get a free kick. Oh, God, he doesn't. Back into the centre goes the ball, but in comes McGee of Richmond. Richmond keeping the pressure right on. The ball smothered there by Smith. Oh, Smith goes over, but gets a hand pass across here towards Dench, but it's taken by Bartlett. Bartlett right back into the goal square. Green! Gotta be paid. Gotta be paid. There it is, right through the centre, and Richmond fight back. Gradually getting closer. Up it goes again. Sam Kekovich and Baum once more, having a great tussle. There's Hart. He'll have a shot. It looks good. It's a goal. They're making mistakes galore, North Melbourne at the moment, as we see Wood grab the ball. Into attack go the Tigers, up to centre half forward, and a beautiful mark taken by Hart. He's starting to fire now. He's only for most of his career, he's played only 3 parts fit. I'd hate to see him when he's fit. He's already kicked 2 goals. The kick by Hart. It's a glorious kick. It's a goal, and that's his third. Over it comes. Kekovich can't pick it up. There's Sheedy playing a great game. Up towards that position, and a mark taken there by big Neil Baum. Tell you what, you'd need the Great Wall of China to stop him, or a Sherman tank. The kick, he's already kicked 1. That's his second. Going after the ball is Bartlett and Feltham. That goes past. Bartlett's got it now. There's a blind turn as he hooks the ball back. There's a mark to Sheedy. The kick. Oh, it looks pretty good. And it's a goal. I think a bit unfair that time as the ball is kicked up by Wood. Up towards that half-forward line. And back here, back here. Look at this. Back here now. They're really into it. Look at this going on. They're all having a go. Look. And the players still going on down there. Players are falling over like nobody's. And there's a free kick down there to Richmond. And players going in like nobody's business. The umpire, the goal umpire's absolutely hopeless down there. Got no hope. There's another go going on. Look. Well, the field umpire hasn't spotted this at all. And it's Richmond into attack immediately. Ball taken by Royce Hart, their skipper. It's a right footer by Hart, but it's deep into the forward zone. Green from behind couldn't get it. Taken by Cumming over to Barry Richardson, and he's put it through. As Baum has a ton of time to kick the ball and drives them into attack up towards centre half forward. It beats about 5 players. In goes Baker, can't pick it up.
Montgomery and Thorpe. It's Thorpe trying to get out. And the umpire wants it. Play on. There's a shot by Sheedy. And it's another goal. About 7 minutes gone of this last quarter. Ball back into play by Clay. Out towards the half-back line. Has to go for Cable. But he's intercepted that time by Hart. Good play by Hart. A beautiful pass. Out for Sheedy. Played a terrific game. A drop kick by Sheedy up towards full forward. The pack fly. It's on the ground. Coming across this time is Richardson. He turns. He fires. Oh, what a beautiful goal. Play! Out battling hard. And finally coming away with the ball is Wood. Across to Thorpe at centre field. Up towards the forward pocket it goes. And there's a mark. What a mark! A beautiful mark by Richardson. Richardson going for his 4th goal. It's not a bad kick. It's a goal.
Put Schimmelbusch in a fair bit of trouble there. He was tackled by Wood, picked up by Sproul. Sproul of Richmond on a half-forward flank on the stand side. Baker knocks it away from Hart. It's up for grabs. Oh, look at Sheedy. Desperation plus. Picked up by Thorpe. Thorpe puts the ball into the forward pocket for the Tigers. Barry Richardson. Oh, he's taken another one. Up he comes. It's on its way. Oh, it's right through the centre. Put away your glasses. Magnificent. That's his 5th. He's in trouble as Clayton comes through. Clayton is tackled. There is Kevin Morris with Burns. A solo goes. And the final scoreboard in the 74 grand final reads Richmond 18-20, 128. North Melbourne 13-9, 87.
A rampant Richmond finished in 2nd place after the 1980 home and away season, but saved its very best for the finals. With Kevin Bartlett in outstanding form, the Tigers thrashed Carlton, then beat Geelong in the 2nd semi to roar into the grand final, where they confronted Collingwood. It was a one-horse race, Bartlett booting 7 goals in Richmond's thumping 81-point win.
It's not a bad sort of a kick either. It's a goal. Well, Cloak finally forced that down to Jesse. He's doing a great job on Billy Pickens. We see Kane send the ball back looking for Roach again. He's got it. What a great mark.
Right now he's lining them up. And has put it through for another one to Richmond. Can't kick it as far as Jimmy Jess. Into the goal square. Cloak! What a mark! David Cloak. 12 metres out from goal. Let's see how that one is. That's 4 points. 1 goal to Richmond.
Kicked the ball back there looking for Jess. This time it's Byrne at the back. Couldn't hold the mark. Gets into a bit of trouble. A wild hand pass. There's Welsh crashing his way through the pack. He's pulled to the ground. Umpire called play on. Ball knocked out there from Waitman over to Rawlings. Back it goes now. A chance for Kane to have a shot for goal. That's good. That's goal number 2 to Kane. Now they're running one over the top of the Magpies. There's a box on at the moment. Playing a very effective game there in the ruck.
He's run on top of Moore at the moment. Mark Lee from centre half forward now. Kick not a good one. Got plenty of height, nothing else. Bartlett in front. Bartlett.
Better hurry up and do it, Pete.
35 metres out on an angle. That looks a pretty good shot from the veteran, and he's put it through for goal number 4 to Kevin Bartlett.
That centre half forward go up there towards Cloak, and he's got the mark. That was a bad hand pass by Woolno that time, and shouldn't miss this one, David Cloak, and this will make it worse for Colin if he's successful. And that's what he is. Knocked out by Lee again. Rawlings will go for a hand pass over to Wiley. Bounced right. He's running to an open goal and fires. This looks bad for Collingwood. It's through for another one. It's goal number 2 to 1. Well, you could pick plenty of good players for the Tigers, and there's a nice mark as he outmanoeuvred Byrne that time. Wiley to go clear and shoot the ball up there towards Cloak. Cloak's in the position, couldn't hold them up. There's another goal coming up to Cloak now. No worries about that.
Looking for Cloak. Cloak takes the mark. Play on, says umpire Bill Della. Cloak does just that. The big fella gets into top gear and away he goes. A long shot at goal from the big Richmond forward. That looks a pretty good sort of a kick to me. Another one to the Tigers and they go further ahead. 4 goals to David Cloak. Out it comes towards McCormack from Young. McCormack looking for a hand pass. It goes to Waitman. Back and turn the Jess. Running into an open goal. Another one to the Tigers. Lee Big fist to the ball, looks for Bartlett. Has he found him? Doesn't bounce too well. Now it bounces up into his arms. Bartlett, unselfish to Rawlings. Rawlings fires at the goals, and that's another one for Richmond. Good play by Bartlett.
Kick by Bartlett. It's a long one towards the goals. Cloak flying. He's got the mark. David Cloak coming in for goal number 5. And that's where it is, right through the middle.
Welsh tackling well. Kink going through. Welsh is still there with him. Kink had to get rid of the ball in a hurry. Kane over to Lee. Great job from the big ruckman today. Close to best on the ground. Rains is at right half forward now. Decides to go back and take his kick because Byrne was standing on the mark. He couldn't get away. Jeff Rains kicks the ball long as usual. Cloak the high flyer! And that's the shot as David Cloak comes in for it. 10 metres out, almost into our camera lens. All clear. 18 minutes gone in the final term. Rains to Wiley. As the Tigers try and get it out of the centre. Back to Terry Smith. It comes from Rains. A long kick by Smith up towards Cloak again. Couldn't take it. Roach is there. Gives it to Bartlett. Bartlett 10 metres out. Running in for another one to Richmond. 33 and 3/4 minutes gone in the final quarter. Malthouse now from full-back. Upfield taken by Mervyn Kane. Long kick by Kane. There's the siren. Richmond have won their first premiership since 1974. Richmond 23 goals, 21, 159 points. Defeated Collingwood by the biggest ever margin in a grand final, 9-24-78.
However, the winner of the Premiership of the century, we go back even further to 1967. And we'll ask their then coach, Mr. Tom Hafey, to come forward.
We had a lot of teenagers and a lot of people probably thought that was going to probably be against us, but with the also sprinkling of good experienced players, the Rogers, Freddie Swift, boys like that, Paddy Ganane, Michael Patterson, there's a lot of players who had been around for quite some time. But those youngsters, as you mentioned, about 5 teenagers, absolutely sensational. And that more or less got the impetus going for a great success that we had later on.
A hard-as-nails halfback, Basil McCormack endeared himself to Richmond fans throughout the 1920s inside their heads. He was fearless in his desire to get the ball and was a classic example of how hard work can reap rewards. Francis Burke became the benchmark for unflinching courage and unstoppable valour on the field throughout a stellar 300-game career with Richmond from 1967. From champion wingman to superb half-back, eventually to top-class fullback, his contribution to the yellow and black cause was enormous. He was a key figure in 5 Tiger Premierships. No player in the history of the game epitomises his club more than the man known as Captain Blood, Jack Dyer. Jack struck fear into the hearts and minds of all opposition players during the 1930s and 40s. He was renowned for his bone-jarring shirt fronts, which left many an opponent bloodied, battered and bruised. He bled for the Tigers and expected his teammates to do likewise.
And the winner of the Strong and Bold, another legend, Captain Blood, Jack Dyer. And to accept the award, I'll call upon his grandson, John Devine, to come forward.
Did he push you to get going in Auskick and beyond?
He did. He used to take us out, my brother and I, in the backyard and teach us how to shirt front and all that sort of stuff. And I had a try it at Tigerland, but was a bit slow and not skillful enough. So, yeah, apart from that, I was pretty good, though.
Well, John, I reckon the good thing was you mightn't have inherited his skill and toughness. The good thing was you didn't inherit his ears either.
My brother got them, so thank God.
Thomas O'Halloran was a ruckman and centre-half forward who was regarded as the best mark of his era. In the frenetic last quarter of the 1967 Richmond versus Geelong Grand Final Classic, with the scores all tied up, teenage Tiger forward sensation Royce Hart floated above Cats defender Peter Walker to pull down a breathtaking mark. It remains one of the most enduring memories of a fantastic day in Tigerland history. Malcolm Greenslade had quite an impact in just 2 games with the club. In his debut game for the Tigers against St Kilda at Waverley in early 1971, star from South Australian club Sturt took a towering chest mark over teammate Roger Dean. Throughout an illustrious 251-game career with the Tigers, Kevin Sheedy was not really renowned for his marking prowess. But this grab over North Melbourne's Gary Farrant in the 1974 Grand Final was an absolute gem. Sheedy planted his right foot firmly in Farrant's back and was almost parallel to the ground when he marked. For years, this spectacular mark by the star Tiger wingman Brian Wood featured prominently on Channel 7's Up There Kazali football promo. He got a decent ride on the way up before arching his back and then grabbing the ball. Superstar full forward Michael Roach was a noted high flyer during his 200-game career at Tigerland. But the mark he took against Hawthorn at the MCG in 1979 was almost literally out of this world.
Oh, look, just sensational mark. And I guess he was getting a few opportunities with range and fellas like that jamming it down towards him quite often, but he was just a fantastic mark. And the best part about him too, when he marked him, he didn't miss him. He put him straight through the centre. Just a fantastic player and a great bloke.
Not only was Jeff Rains a beautifully balanced player and a booming kick, he could soar for marks. This particular day against Fitzroy at the MCG, Rainsy propelled himself over the Lions' David McMahon and grabbed the ball in one clean motion to complete a stunning mark. Michael Mitchell was only 173 centimetres tall and weighed just 66 kilos. But he was one of the finest marks ever to grace a football field. His best aerial effort for Richmond was a pearler against Fitzroy at the MCG in 1990, which won the Mark of the Year award. Throughout an 85-game career at Richmond, Burke Jr. took several screamers. But this one against Essendon at the MCG in 1996 was an absolute standout. Richmond was striving for just its 2nd win of the 2007 season when it confronted Collingwood. Outstanding key forward Matthew Richardson, in typical style, inspired his teammates with a vintage specky over Magpie Heath Shore.
And you rode with him all the way up there, Michael Roach.
Actually, my whole house is wallpapered in that mark, so every day I look at that.
When you look at it, it took about 3 seconds, but it's been an enduring image of your football career.
Yeah, just very lucky that there was some cameras there to capture it, and it was in colour and black and white, and it was, it was only my sort of 15th or 16th game, so it was just one of those things.
Built more like a rover than a full forward, Jack Titus displayed wonderful talent and durability throughout an 18-year career with the Tigers from 1926. He kicked a club record 970 goals and set a league record of 202 consecutive games, which stood for half a century. There were no cameras there that day, but Doug Strang booted an amazing 14 goals from full forward for Richmond against North Melbourne at Punt Road in May 1931. It was in just his second game of league football, and an individual goal record which still stands at Tigerland to this day. Jack Dyer, Richmond's iconic captain-coach, inspired his undermanned Tiger team to a gallant victory over Essendon in the 1944 preliminary final, with an outstanding 9-goal performance, following his surprise switch to full forward at the start of the game. Presented to the crowd at the 1954 grand final, the gentle giant, Roy Wright, had won a second Brownlow medal. He'd overcome a sickly childhood and a late start to his football career to write his name into the record books and establish himself as one of the game's all-time great ruckmen. Tom Hafey was not the greatest player during his 67-game playing career. He'd have to make do with being the club's most successful coach. He took over the coaching reins at Richmond in 1966 and guided the Tigers through their most successful era, winning 4 premierships and achieving a 70% winning percentage during an 11-year coaching stint at Punt Road. Star centreman Billy Barrett was shifted to full forward midway through the second quarter of Richmond's must-win match against Carlton in the second last round of the 1969 season as the Tigers struggled. He proceeded to kick 8 goals against the reigning premiers in a brilliant display that lifted the Tigers to a memorable win.
Now lining up. Kick, it looks as certainly.
I thought there was one. And umpire Don Jolly missing nothing, giving almost perfect exhibition of umpiring. Barrett kicks. He's put it through. Straight into it. Drives it further downfield. Here's a go. Barrett. In. Northier's battling on for the ball. In comes Barrett there. A left foot snap by Billy Barrett. He's put it through.
Moore's kick goes in towards Billy Barrett, and Billy Barrett marks. Loss took him to the ground solidly, but Barrett, an old veteran now, concentrating. Oh, wonky kick, but it's going right through.
Green now takes his kick. It's a long one. It's going deep down into the pocket. Up they all go. Roger Dean was there. Taken by Barrett. He snaps.
Oh, there's a bit of luck in that. Okay, he hooked it off his instep on a left foot on an acute angle.
Has there been a more inspirational final series from a big man than the 3 games produced by Michael Green in 1969? The young ruckman rose to the challenge, controlling the centre bouncers and dominating around the ground through his marking prowess. He was voted best on ground in the Tigers' wins over Geelong, Collingwood, then Carlton in the grand final.
And when you think about that against the competition at the time, and certainly the grand final was John Nichols, and one of the finals Len Thompson, and I think sort of Sammy Newman somewhere along the way. Really, he had an outstanding series, and really from that, he was undoubtedly the dominant player of that particular game, I think, and I suppose certainly that final series.
The little maestro, Kevin Bartlett, put his unique stamp on the 1980 final series, kicking 21 goals as a half-forward in Richmond's 3 appearances, including a grand final equaling bag of 7 in the grand final massacre of the Magpies, which earned him a 5th Premiership medallion and the Norm Smith Medal for being best of field. 333 games, 333 goals and 3 Brownlow votes in each of his last 3 games of AFL football. David Cloke bowed out in style in 1991. The 36-year-old kicked 8 goals in his last match against Carlton. Matthew Knight single-handedly kept the Tigers in the hunt in their 1995 semi-final against Essendon with a superb, inspirational first half of football, running hard and kicking 3 of the team's 4 goals. His teammates responded in the second half, running right over the top of the Bombers.
Fantastic goal, 3-3 to 1 goal. Knights from the centre with 1 bounce. Takes O'Connor on. Could he squeeze another one? Let's go, he's close, he's got it! Sensational!
That's his opponent, Denham.
Struggle for possession around the middle of the ground. Gale, now Matthew Knights. Every time Richmond look as though they need something as a lifter, it's Knights. Can he kick his third goal? He gets inside, well inside 50. This will bring the house down if you don't mind, umpire. It's a goal to Matthew Knights.
The winner of the Chadwick Merchandising Best Individual Performance, one of the greats of this club, Kevin Bartlett.
A couple of things had to be confirmed tonight. Was one, when Francis, of course, got the award for the bravest and the toughest and most courageous, that I always thought he could have handballed that to me as I ran past. And he was more concerned about wiping the blood from his face. Did you notice that, Stephen? And also Michael Roach, when he took that mark of the century, guess who was running past for the handball? I was. And again, Roachy went back and had a shot. He was the hungriest player I ever played with, Roachy was.
Vic Thorpe was a dashing fullback who was regarded as Richmond's first champion in league football. Even before he'd played a senior game in his native Tasmania, the Tigers literally collared him.
I remember my mother saying to Graham Richmond that he hasn't got enough clothes to go across, he needs some clothes, and Graham said, look, we'll give him 6 shirts and a suit, and that's what I went to Melbourne for. It was to play football, not for the money.
Racing for it, he'll get the goal.
So 17-year-old Royce had a new wardrobe, while Richmond had found themselves a high-marking, straight-shooting man for what many say is the toughest position on the ground. After just 2 years at Punt Road, Hart played in Richmond's '67 Premiership team, the first since '43, and he topped the club's goal-kicking award. 2 seasons later, in 1969, he played in another Richmond Premiership while he was undertaking national service in Adelaide. Hart flew back each weekend to play for the Tigers, and obviously national service didn't have any adverse effect on his game. He won Richmond's Best and Fairest award that year, and again in 1972. In '72, though, the Tigers were beaten in the grand final by Carlton, and that day Hart played on his toughest opponents.
All the opponents I played on the VFL were good players, but I suppose if I had to single one out, it'd be the Carlton centre half-back Bruce Newell, mainly because he was such a good defensive player early in his career, and later on he had attacking part to his game, and was not unusual for him to have 10 to 15 handballs. He'd be the hardest.
Richmond avenged the '72 defeat by winning the flags in '73 and '74. and it was Hart who held aloft the Premiership Cup as the Tigers became the first outfit since Melbourne in 59-60 to win back-to-back titles. In all his great years, the best Hart ever fared in the Brownlow medal count was 10 votes, which perhaps raises more questions about the medal than it does about Hart's ability. Paul Sproul was something of an unsung hero in Richmond's back-to-back Premiership triumphs of 1973-74. But his teammates from those halcyon Tiger days rated him with the very best. He had a very clever football brain, silky skills, was a ball magnet and could run hard all day.
It's dropping short and Sproul comes in and marks.
The powerful Richmond sides of the late 1970s, early 80s, Jeff Rains cut a swathe through opposition sides with his explosive pace, ball-getting ability, great balance, marking expertise and booming kicks into the Tigers' forward line. The three-time best and fairest winner, Rains oozed class in everything he did out on the field. Small of stature, but big of heart and talent, Dale Waitman was one of the finest rovers in Richmond's and the AFL's history. He had tremendous vision, pace, stamina, aggression and creative skills. The Flea earned a glowing reputation as a brilliant exponent of handball and repeatedly set teammates up with his quick, slick hands. In his debut season with the Tigers, after crossing from South Fremantle, Maurice Rioli won the Norm Smith Medal for being best of field in the 1982 Grand Final. He possessed magical, all-round football skills, was incredibly elusive, a fantastic tackler, and had beautiful disposal, seldom, if ever, missing his target.
It'll look much better. There's the last goal kicker, Rioli, from half-back. Kicks beyond the centre line.
Jones and Cloak contest this one. Rioli snaps for goal and puts it through. He's looking extremely dangerous. Is this skillful young man?
Pass two from Martello. Rains from a standing start. Sees Rioli. He's got nobody within 30 metres of him. Dool starting to bear down now. Oh, well played, Rioli. Another sidestep around Hunter. Long into full forward. Bartlett and Harms. Bartlett almost. Dunn versus Fitzpatrick. Good clean knock away. Landy nicely to Rioli. Big lead from Rawlings.
Comes Lee to do battle with Fitzpatrick, out to Rioli. Rioli taken away from him, regathers it at centre half-back, goes for one of his weaving runs. Out wide where English and Waitman. Waitman a great leap. Here comes Rioli. Rioli shoots for goal and kicks it very, very well. He's done it.
And the winner was also named as the centre-half forward of the century, Royce Hart.
I wouldn't have been class if I hadn't been up in Sydney at Bronte. We were swimming up there on a football trip and the tide took us out and there was Tony Jewell and myself. I was about 10 metres out further than Tony Jewell. Tommy Hafey saw us, he swam past Tony Jewell, pushed me in, came back laying on the beach. 15 minutes later, Tony Jewell came back in, red in the face, frothing at the mouth, comes up to Tommy, says, "You swam past me and went out to Royce." He said, "Yeah, listen, son, back pockets at a dime a dozen. Centre half forwards are hard to come by."